This week's US CQM Forecast Alert is latent US economy has begun to lose momentum. This week, we updated a number of important monthly economic indicators. However, the impact on the economic growth rate was surprisingly small, as they offset each other. The economic growth forecast is making a gradual upward trend on the expenditure side, but the growth rate is low at 0.53%. Conversely, on the income side, the economic growth forecast is forming a downward trend, but the growth rate is 1.49%, about 1% higher than on the expenditure side. What is important is that the average economic growth rate on both sides, which is considered the latent true economic growth rate, has flattened out since mid-April and has lost growth momentum, reaching around 1%. Inflation has been stable since mid-April. The headline inflation and core PCE price deflator are each expected to grow at around 3%. The recent rise in energy prices is a source of uncertainty regarding the stabilization of inflation. The PCA shows economic growth making a downward trend and forecast economic growth to be 1.14%. This is close to CQM's average economic growth rate of 1.01% on both the expenditure and income sides. Conclusion from this week's US CQM Forecast Alert. The first, the average economic growth rate on both the expenditure and income sides, as the latent true economic growth rate has remained at around 1% since late April. The second, the PCA also shows a downward trend in economic growth, forecasting a growth rate of around 1%. The third, high economic growth cannot be expected in 2024 Q2, but inflation will subside. The fourth, the upward trend in inflation has stopped, and the growth rate of headline inflation and core PCE price deflator is around 3%. The risk is a recent rise in energy prices. The fifth, the Fed will keep the policy interest rate unchanged for a while, given the economic situation of lackluster 1% economic growth and stable 3% inflation. This slide contains additional information about this week's detailed CQM forecast and shows how to access the past US CQM forecast alert.